Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Conversation. I can't even say it today. Collaboration Conversations. I'm. I have to tell you, Pearl is on a leave of absence at the moment, so we have a very gracious individual joining us today as a guest co-host. So I want to welcome my guest, Monica Bazanov. Monica, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for allowing me to step in.
Oh, it's exciting, and Pearl and I are pleased to be able to do that. She and I have chatted about it. She's cool with it, and I thought this way, I could do a monologue. I could interview guests all by myself. I do that on my podcast, on my TV show all the time, but here it just doesn't feel right. This is collaboration conversation, so we need a co-host.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's when you kind of get used to doing something in a certain forum,
Yes,
it feels strange to change it
yes,
around, right?
yep, it does. It does indeed. So I thought, well, why don't we just get some fantastic people to guest co-host in the short run? And so you graciously said yes. So
Yeah.
first, let's find out a little bit about you because our whoever's listening in may or may not know you.
Mhm.
But if not, we want them to get to know you quickly. So tell us what your background is, kind of what you do now, and why
Yeah.
you do that because you do
Wow.
some amazing work in the world.
Yes. So, my background, I never set out to be an entrepreneur. It was like I'm kind of a reluctant entrepreneur, but when you figure something out and then you just want to share it with the world. So
Yeah,
uh, I have asked myself so many times, do I really like why am I doing this? Do I really want to do this? Right?
yeah,
Because
right.
all of the challenges you face
Yeah,
as
yeah,
an entrepreneur.
absolutely.
And then it's always the same answer. I cannot not do this.
Yes, I get
Because
that.
yeah, because uh, the work that I had to do, that the mess I had and what I had to do to fix that, and then realizing that wow, it actually doesn't have to be that hard, and there is a solution, and I found it,
Yes,
and I need to share this with people. So,
yeah,
well, you know a little bit about my story. It started with health issues, and then
right,
when I wanted to share that with people, like how amazing, like the amazing stuff you can do by your own using
right.
natural methods, right? And I wanted to share that with people, and then I just realized I had huge blocks to stepping up, being seen, being heard, using
Yeah,
my voice, earning, charging, all of that stuff, right?
yeah.
And I had to go back and do all of the work all over again, but focusing on the business and the money and showing
Ah,
up part, right?
good point. I really like that point because sometimes we think we've done all the work, and we're talking about the internal work here, folks, the working on ourselves, overcoming all those
Yes.
blocks inside of us. And sometimes we say, "Oh, well, I've worked on that. I'm done with that." And the interesting thing was, Monica and I were having a conversation yesterday, and I was sharing a money block that I'd had that I've worked on a lot, and suddenly there it was again. So we think we've done all this work, but sometimes things aren't finished.
Yes, and it's like peeling an onion,
Yes,
and so there are always aspects to these things, right? And,
yes,
and you know this because you know how I say it's never about the money.
right?
It's about everything else.
Yes,
And also, of course, every time we step up, we identify new stuff that wasn't that
yes,
triggering at a lower level.
right. Kind of like what we talk about for every challenge that you solve in your business, a new challenge surfaces. With
Yes.
every solution comes a new challenge.
Yeah.
So
Eh,
with every step up comes a new challenge.
yeah.
Yeah,
So and
good
the
point.
old, like, what took you this far is not going to take you there, right?
Right. Yes, You always do what you've always done. You'll always get what you've always got.
Yeah.
Is that a little bit of that?
I mean,
Yeah.
which is why like the entrepreneurial journey is so much about development in
Yes.
every aspect. We need to
Oh,
develop
true.
within what we do, like the specialties that we have. We need
Right?
to develop within marketing, within tech.
Yes. Oh, yes. Tech's been eating my lunch for a week.
And then we have the inner stuff, the mess that we all
Yeah,
carry.
exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yes, there's so much, and and so you work really with people to help them overcome those money blocks.
Yes.
And as you said, it's not about the money. It's the experiences that we've had that have created those blocks, right? Is that a
Yes.
good way to put that?
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Um, in like when we talked about mental health, for instance,
Right.
diagnosis, what is wrong with you? That would be like, we need to figure out what's wrong with you, right?
So we can fix you.
So we can fix you. But today we say, what happened to you?
Ah, yeah.
And what happened to you explains a lot. And that's not just in mental health, that's in every aspect of our life, how we interact in
Right.
relationships, how we interact as entrepreneurs, how we behave on every level, right?
Yes.
It's the experience, the luggage that we carry.
Right.
And sometimes we are not aware. We think that this is me, and it's not. It's just
Right.
the impact that experiences had on you, and they kind
Right.
of shaped your patterns, right?
Exactly. And when you said what happened to you,
Mhm.
made me think of the particular thing that happened in my life that created the block. And it wasn't actually anything that happened to me, but I was part of an experience going on around me.
Yeah.
Does
And
that
because you were so young, it actually did
Yeah,
happen to you, because we don't have any filters.
right.
We don't have any protection against authority figures and their behavior
Right.
at that
Right.
age, right?
Yes.
So it does happen to you. What
To
happens to
you.
them
Okay.
happens to
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Okay. And folks, I was under the age of 5 at that point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but a very profound experience that has truly impacted my life when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And here I am. Do I say the number of years past that experience? And it's still impacting me.
yeah, but
I don't mind saying it. I'm 65 years plus past that experience, and still there is an impact.
and that's important to understand, because we say that time heals everything. No.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah,
And it's
it doesn't.
also like thinking of what the insights that you had yesterday.
Right.
And can you be compassionate with yourself
Right. Yes.
and say, that
Yes.
actually happened to me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it had a profound impact on
It
me. It
did.
shaped me.
Yes. And
And
folks, I didn't even recognize it, didn't even really remember it until I was, well, until probably within the last 10 years was probably, it was, it would have been late 2014
yeah,
when it actually hit me
mhm,
that that had happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have a community, to have
Yeah.
mentors, coaches, to have
Right.
everything around you that can, because it helps you pick up on those things.
Yes. And there's not, I think there's not one solution.
Mm-mm.
There are multiple solutions.
Yeah.
But and by that I mean, like I said, I've done a lot of work around this issue since I discovered it, using different modalities, and they've all helped. but there's still a little bit there that still needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's quit analyzing Regina. We're moving on, folks. But yeah, the work that you do is profound, Monica. You're
Thank you.
making a true difference in the world, and that's so important to both of us. We both want to make a difference in the world.
Mm.
And you were talking about a reluctant entrepreneur, but you knew you needed to share share things with the world, and make a difference, and impact as many people as you could in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which led you and I both to get involved in some groups that are all about connecting, all
Right.
about interacting and connecting.
Mhm.
So while we didn't meet at yeah, I mean, we weren't in the group at the same time, but nonetheless, the connections we made in those groups
Mhm.
led us to one another.
Right.
Collaboration conversations that occurred along the way led us to one another.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and folks, the main group I'm speaking of here is Jay Fazette's JVology. And
Right.
I first met Jay back in 2016, about around the middle of 2016, summer to fall, somewhere in that area, probably, I guess. And met him at a conference in Las Vegas that he was putting on, and have worked with him on and off since. And you met him, you said a year ago-ish, or
September 21. No,
21,
20.
September
20.
20. Okay,
Yeah.
so coming up on a couple of years.
Mm.
And then through Jay, we both met James Lamb,
Right.
and have done some things with James Lamb. And through James, we met
Right.
finally. And we met because, and we may have been in that same workshop together with James about a month or so ago. He did a
Mhm.
workshop, and we may have been in there, but I don't think we really connected so much in there. But when James promoted an event that you had going on last week, and then I sat in on your event.
Yes.
And so yeah, you never know where those connections are going to go.
No.
And they're so powerful.
Yeah. And because we connected on LinkedIn, right?
Right?
And we were like, okay, we need to connect, we need to meet, and there's always so much stuff going on. But then
Yes.
we kind of, okay, I'm doing this, you're doing this.
Yeah.
You can come to my event, see what I do,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I think that's also the power of using platforms as LinkedIn to connect with people and
Yes.
to kind of get to know people.
Yes.
And you can meet, because today we don't need to meet face to face anymore, and we
Yes.
can
And
still
where are you located, Monica?
I'm in Sweden.
And I'm in Houston, Texas area. So if we ever meet face to face, who knows if we'll ever get that opportunity. But you know what? We feel like best friends, and we haven't known each other very long at all.
Yeah.
And had it not been for these collaborations and the interconnected world that we live in now, we would never have met.
No.
And that would have been a loss from
Yeah.
my
And
perspective.
like for me, living in a tiny corner of the world called Sweden,
Right.
it's such a small pond, right?
Yeah.
And I would never have had the ability to travel that much
Right.
to like in a phase where I'm still very much growing still my business.
Right.
So for me, the whole COVID situation really enabled me to get in touch with so many people and so many events that I would never have had the ability to, because I was in the mastermind, and everyone in the mastermind were Swedes except me. And and it was a Swedish mastermind, so to say. And one person said when she heard that I wanted to go international, she said, "Well, you should look into collaborations and joint venture opportunities."
Really
And I was
awesome.
like, "Okay, like if you say so, right?"
Yeah, right.
And she said, "Well, there's actually an event starting in 2 days."
Was that Jay's?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I jumped in, like, and I felt like a deer in the headlight because I had no idea what to expect or how to behave or what to say,
Right?
you know? Uh, but I loved the experience.
Yeah, yeah. The people that you get to meet, the
Mhm.
opportunities that are created from those connections.
Yeah.
And it's about being open. And I think that was a demonstration from you of being open when you said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going.
Yeah.
I
And
see there's
also,
value, but I don't know how this is going to play out.
yeah, and
Yeah.
being open, and also it is a very welcoming and warm community,
Yes. Yes.
and there's room for not being perfect, and there's room
Yes.
for failing, and
Yes.
because I did feel at times in those breakout rooms at the beginning as a mumbling idiot, right?
I've had those moments when I started to introduce the show today. Nothing was coming out right.
And still everyone was kind and generous and listening,
Yes.
and like having that space
Yes.
to grow in, which is so
Yeah.
important, right? Because it
Yep.
is a journey.
It absolutely is.
Mm.
Yes. And whether it looks like success or what we call failure at the moment, it's all learning. It's all part of the journey. And there's really no such thing as failure if you get back up again
Mhm.
and keep putting one foot in front of the other and figuring it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was
Would you
also
say that?
part of
Oh, go
part of
ahead. No,
yeah,
please.
that was
Yeah.
also part of that for me, trying to get all those pieces into place, and trying to share my message, and realizing, "Oh, I need to go back and improve," right? Because that's a part of it.
It's a
Because
part of it.
you cannot
Yeah.
deliver on your first try. It just
Right.
doesn't work.
Yep. Which is why so many times people do something like a beta test of something,
Mhm.
let's work out the kinks.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of a program right now that really is turning out to be more of a beta test, and we're certainly finding kinks, and we've got to work out those kinks so that we can launch it again
Mhm.
um, much more effectively. There was
Mhm.
just a couple of ducks that were not in line where they needed to be.
Mhm. Yeah,
Technology being one of them.
exactly.
So one of the things you and I chatted about yesterday was this idea that uh, sometimes we don't let people know. I want to say this right. Sometimes we present too rosy a picture of entrepreneurship. Now, that said, folks, I don't want to do anything but entrepreneurship. I don't ever want to go back to work for someone else. I like not having to report to someone else, but it's more than that. I like the freedom of making my own decisions and having the freedom to fail, the freedom to find new ways to do things. And there's so much I like about entrepreneurship, but it's not rosy. It has its wonderful moments and it has its downsides. We talked about those hills and valleys yesterday. Um, let's explore that just a little bit, Monica.
The hills and the valleys.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's different because you don't have anyone telling you you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do
Exactly.
that, right? So there's more freedom, but also there is so much more room to have those highs and the lows, and for failing, and also you're always, I can never say that my boss
Yeah,
or someone else is to blame, right?
that's right. You take it all. The buck stops here.
Yeah. So like I take the glory and I take the fall, right?
That's right. Yep. And truly, there are a lot of challenges,
Mhm.
but the rewards are so beautiful. And, for me, anybody who knows me, I talk about the ripple effect all the time, that I get to be part of the ripple that someone else creates in the world because I was able to help them get to that place where they could create that ripple. And that to me is just everything else pales in comparison.
Yeah.
It's such a sweet, sweet thing to be able to see what other people are doing, and you know that you had some small part in them getting there.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. And also the personal development that
Yes.
it takes. Like I remember a few years back, I was, I was down in one of those valleys.
Yeah.
and and I said to my husband, like, oh, I've been doing this now for such a long time, and I still haven't like succeeded.
Right.
I'm not there, right?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, "You have no idea how much I have enjoyed your journey and seeing you
Oh,
grow."
wow.
And I was like,
Wow.
"Oh," right?
Yeah.
Because he says, "I'm way more fun to be married to now than before." Because I've built resilience
Yes. Yes.
and strength, and like I deal with challenges in a very different way now.
Right. And wouldn't you say that faith, I know for me, faith plays a huge part.
Mhm.
And whether that's I mean, there are multiple layers of faith, right? Whether that's talking about faith in God or faith in the fact that if I do keep learning and keep doing, we will be successful, right?
Yeah.
And and but that also incorporates my faith in God because
Mhm.
I do rely on Him
Mhm.
to help me do that. I don't for a moment think that I'm doing it all,
Yeah.
right? But I still have to have faith every day that gets me up at 5 a.m. in the morning to get ready for my day so that when it comes time to get started in my office, I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. I'm, tackling my day.
Mm.
Um,
Absolutely. For
yeah,
me, faith did play a large role, especially in making the changes. Like I knew that I wasn't happy living my life the way I was doing until, everything kind of I was at a place that I had to change.
right,
I don't
right,
want to continue like this, right?
exactly.
And then there's also the faith in the, as you said, that if I do my best, that is a part of the success, right?
Yes,
Because
yes,
I'm using my free will and choosing my life instead
right,
of living a life that someone else thought would
yes,
be the best for me.
right. And I love that you said doing your best.
Yeah.
I think one of the worst words in language is try. And you and I are both students of the brain. The brain doesn't know how to try, it only knows how to do. And when we say try, we actually are not supporting ourselves. And I always tell people, okay, that's a dirty four-letter word. Like 4 letters. Yeah, it's a dirty four-letter word. Just don't use it. Um, just do your best. It's all you can do anyway, right? You can't do better than your best. Just do your best.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that you said doing your best because
Mhm.
that's so important. The language that we use
Mhm.
is so important relative to our success.
Yes, because it creates an understanding of what's actually going on.
Hmm.
I love languages. I'm like totally fascinated by languages, and there's this interesting, it's hard to express something if you don't have the word for it.
Right.
Like
Very true.
English is such a rich, like abundant language. In English, there's words for just about anything,
Everything.
right? Uh, but I see that if you have a language that's not that rich in different emotional words, it's
Right?
really hard to communicate that.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that as entrepreneurs, as we grow, we develop the language, we develop understanding. The brain constantly keeps on, like rearranging stuff and knowledge.
Right?
And for me, that happens all the time. It's like in a conversation, and I try saying something, like I say it a little bit different, and all of a sudden my brain goes, "Oh, right.
Yeah.
That was a much better explanation." But you need to you need to play with the words, and like the words you use shape your brain, they shape your experience, they shape your ability to create momentum.
Right?
And that cannot happen in a vacuum. It cannot happen when I'm doing that alone in my head.
Right.
I need to throw the words out there at someone and have them
And
come
see
back
what comes
to me.
back.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. One of the things in a workshop that I attended that you did about a week ago, what you just said reminded me of that. And that was that exercise that you did where you had everyone write down what they wanted their monthly revenue to be. And we did a little exercise around that afterwards and ranked, in about 4 different areas. But then you had us double it
yes,
and write that down. And that's a little what you're making me think of here when what you just talked about, and what comes to my mind is that we change the container.
right.
Yeah,
We change the container, and when we do that, we get triggered. And when we get triggered, we get stuff up to the surface. And
right,
when it's up in the surface, we can take a look at them,
right.
and now we can deal with them.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah, because you know this, right? Like the scholars, they argue. Some people say, like, yeah, 85% of every decision you make every day is subconscious.
Right,
And some of them say, no, 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 it's 95%.
right.
I don't know the exact number, but if it's 85 or 95%,
Yeah,
if you can change that by 10 or 20%, that's a huge
yes,
shift.
yes,
And that's why we need to take the stuff that's not conscious, and we need to take a look at it because it is directing our lives, right?
yeah,
And so even things as so many people say, yeah, you need to use affirmations. But if that affirmation is not, like, if it goes against the,
it's not in
the
alignment.
not in alignment with
Yeah,
the strong subconscious beliefs, it doesn't get
right.
any power, right?
Got it.
It could
Yeah,
actually
yeah, I can
instead,
see that.
yeah, instead it could even like kind of be, it can trigger the opposite.
Right.
Like if I say I'm the most beautiful woman in the world, right? My whole body goes like, nah. Right? And I hear the nah. So there needs to be some substance to the words that we use. They need to resonate with not just what we think we want, but the experience that we're actually carrying in our system.
Right,
And if we don't know what we're carrying in the system, then we there's this, tug of war
right.
between the cognitive mind and the nervous system that creates a stress reaction. And believe me, the stress reaction always wins, right?
Yes.
happened?
Yeah.
And then we start blaming ourselves, and then we get even more stressed out, right? So,
Yeah.
so the
And it
work that
always wins because it's a physiological response,
yes,
not a cognitive response.
yes, and it has more power. It has more
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
Physical is stronger than the thought process, right?
Right.
And what happens, because that's one of the things that really like gets me engaged, if you can't notice it by now, is that we talk so much about mindset.
Right.
But when you get triggered and you get stressed out and blood leaves the brain, goes into your arms and your feet,
Yeah.
right? You can't access your
Yeah.
mindset.
That's correct. You are, yeah. You're
So
running
there's
on automation.
yeah.
Yes.
So like we shortcut
Right.
the mindset and we don't have access to it. So it's, for me, it's like, it's not, if we can take away the triggers, if we can neutralize the triggers, if we can calm the nervous system,
Right.
then we have access to the brilliance all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah. And like, you wouldn't be an entrepreneur if you didn't like kind of have a good mindset at the start, right? Because
Right.
if you were the negative, like the naysayer, the nah, you would never
Yeah.
start a
You would
business.
never start it. Yeah.
So I mean, I want everyone out there to understand that yes, you do have a good mindset. Most of the mindset that you have, it's serving you
Right.
as long as it is active.
Yes. Good point. When that part of the brain shuts down, you can't get to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are things that you can do. That's for a show for another day. But there
Mhm.
are things that you can do to restore that blood flow to those parts of the brain where you can think more clearly again, where you can stop reacting and act instead of reacting, where you can make choices.
Mhm.
Because when you're in reaction mode, you don't make choices, you just respond, you
Yeah.
react.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We could, Monica and I could go on about the brain stuff all day long. So, um, and that's a cool thing about these collaboration conversations is that you never know where you're going to find somebody that is that has shared experiences. You know that you've gone through similar things. I mean, like I said, I get excited about talking about this subject of the brain and the body and all of that, and Monica does as well. And she's currently doing that in her business. I had a business for a while where I worked with people on those things, but now I work with business owners more and to help them grow their business. So Monica and I, now here's where collaboration conversations gets really exciting, folks. So Monica and I can see that we can team up and work together to give that business owner both the foundation in his or her business that they need, but also the foundation in the work that Monica does in being able to be in control of your mind and body again, and not be subject to those things that we were just talking about, where you wind up in fight or flight, and then to be able to access all of that and put it to work in your business. And so this is a great collaboration that we can do to complement each other's services and serve the same audience. And that's
Absolutely.
when and when you're looking for collaborations and joint ventures, that's one of the things you want to look for is who has your ideal audience that they're serving, but serving in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are
And
others as well, but that's one way. That's
yes.
yeah.
And I think there, because we all need, like, how many courses have you bought during your years as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly learning because we see that as we grow, as we mentioned in the beginning, we need to continue to develop.
Right.
So if I have a tribe of people, and I know that, okay, now they can access their brilliance, but they still need to understand and do some work on their numbers,
Right.
then I would want to help them find someone that I know is reliable, because there are a lot of people selling stuff that I don't really appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
And so it's also, it's kind of a safety net for my clients that I can say, okay, for these things, for getting your numbers right, talk to
Yeah.
Regina.
And building the business foundation. Yes.
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 Because now you
Exactly.
can think, but you need to know your numbers, you need to know your math, and you need to know where to tweak those numbers.
Yes.
And you should not do that alone,
Right. Yeah.
because none of this is, we're, we're human beings. We're not meant to go alone, right?
That's
We need
correct.
other people. We don't have to figure out the wheel every time.
We'll
Someone
go a lot
on,
farther faster if we get help,
yes. So
if
that's,
we do it together.
yeah. So that is an investment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I know that this person needs Regina, why not like share that,
Yes. And vice
and
versa. Yeah.
have them move and have the progress happen a little faster, instead of sending them out into the jungle and like figure it out.
Yeah, right.
Hope you
And that's,
survive.
yeah. And that is the beauty of having these collaboration conversations, is that you find those people that you're on the same path, the same journey, just doing it differently or a different aspect of it.
Mhm.
And you can team up with one another and serve your clients even better.
Yes, and
So,
they will love you
yes,
for it.
absolutely.
It's like,
Yeah,
yay! I finally found someone who was a match for me, right?
right. One of my favorite things to do, it makes me feel so good to do, is to actually introduce people.
Yeah.
So this morning I had the opportunity to introduce a couple of folks that are actually going to be on the show in July. One of them is going to be a guest co-host, and the other one is going to be someone that we interview on that
Mhm.
same show. But it's just like, you once you get in this mode of collaboration conversations, you consistently think of people that you need to introduce this person to. And every time you're with somebody, you're gathering information about them and then kind of going through your mental Rolodex of,
Yeah.
who could support them, who could they support, how could they work something together and collaborate, and you look for those synergies,
Yes.
and that is exciting to do.
Yeah. And you kind of
Yeah.
get that, like, almost like a jittery feeling when you're talking to someone like, hmm, I
Uh-huh.
I need to introduce this person to that person, because, I just yesterday, I sent this message, and I was like, okay, like, this person meet this person, this person
Yeah.
meet this person on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and
Right.
I would so have loved to be a fly on the wall while the two
For
of
the
you discuss
conversation.
leadership, right?
Yes, yes, oh yes. I
Uh,
know. I always on my emails, I usually introduce by email, but sometimes I introduce on the platforms. And it's always like, I can't wait to hear how this goes, because I know they're going to do something great.
and just the last week, I think, someone who I am actually, we're working together now. He's creating something really cool, and I introduced him to someone else, and he said, "Yeah, we just closed a $12,000 deal,"
Nice.
and I was like, "Yay,
Nice.
cool, right?"
Yes.
Because now I know that it's like, he's like, Monica, leave the group, because we're having some like, there's some paperwork going back and forth. Like, okay, I'll get out of your way. Just
I'm
like,
out of your way.
but
Yeah, and it's so nice to be a part of that, because again, the ripple goes on. And when you introduce two people together, now you've created a bigger ripple
Mhm.
the two of
Yeah.
them working together are going to create a bigger ripple than either of them working independently.
Oh yeah.
And so
Like
now
I
it just
know
gets
like
better and better.
these two people, like they have huge visions and they have a massive
Right.
following, and I know that something amazing will come out of that.
Exactly. Yes.
And as you said, it's so cool to be kind of be a part of that. Like, oh
Yes.
yeah, I
Yep.
kind of made that happen. You know, I decided that
I
for
helped.
me.
I
You know,
helped.
like, like
I helped. Love it. I love it. And I absolutely love collaboration conversations. And with that, I guess, Monica, I need to bring us to a close here. This has been fun.
already.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking for 40 minutes. um, but yeah, it's just it's fun. It's fun. It's profitable. You create relationships that
Mhm,
can last a long time. You get to impact others in the world without having to physically one-on-one make that impact.
mhm,
As you introduce people to one another or as you work with someone else, and then they go out and create more success,
mhm.
you're a part of that
Yes,
forever.
yes.
Yes,
And then they
I
love
love
you
it.
and adore you, and then you feel even better.
That's right. Monica and I are starting a new society. It's called the We Love to Be Adored Society.
The adorables.
The Adorables. Oh, I love it. The Adorables. Anybody want to join? Just let us know in the comments. We'll
Yeah.
we'll we'll check you
Just
out.
comment, I adore you. And
And we'll know. That's right. I adore you. That'll get you in. Monica, thanks so much for being my guest co-host today. It's been delightful.
yeah.
Yeah. So, folks, we thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world, whatever time of the day. Sorry, my phone just rang. Wherever you are, whatever time of day or night it is for you, we appreciate you joining us. Let us know you were here. Give us a comment. We'd love to know, your thoughts, what you might like to hear in our collaboration conversations. Anything, any subject matter or any person that you'd like to have us have on the show. We'd like to hear more about that. If you'd like to come on the show, we'd like to know that. So put some comments in, give us some love. Yes, we need to be adored. Give us some love. We are the adorables. And we'll see you all next time on Collaboration Conversations. Bye for now.